Ladies and gentlemen, it is now 7:03, and I, Michael P. Myrick, who is the present chairman of the Zoning Board of Appeals of the Town of Orleans, called this regular meeting to order. Amongst the business that we have to take are approving the minutes of the last meeting, which was September 20th, 2017. The minutes have been circulated, both of the regular meeting and also of the executive session. Is there a motion to approve those two sets of minutes?
So moved.
Any discussion on the motion? Oh, is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mr. Jablon. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Present tonight, we have 3 hearings on the agenda, and present are myself and regular members Peter Jablon and Beth McCartney. Also an associate member, Gerald Mulligan, and a new member, having been duly sworn before the town clerk.
Yes.
Would you introduce yourself, please?
Hi, I'm Emily Van Giesen. It's nice to meet you all.
Very well. And you are now the most junior.
In more ways than one.
But anxious to take your place amongst this august body. In addition, present are the board secretary, Sandy Stewart. Excused are regular members Cole and associate member Taub, who
Said he would be here.
may be here. Also excused is the building commissioner of the town of Orleans, Tom Evers. I'll just do the numbers sequentially. Number 2069 is the application of Naomi Weinberg and Edward Burke. Are you ready to proceed, ma'am? Very well. Case number 2070, the application of William Kurzban and 2 others. Mr. Little?
Yes.
And finally, the application of Elizabeth S. Bentley. You ready to proceed? Very well. Then that's exactly what we'll do. Mr. Rano Flores, it's good to see you tonight.
Nice to see you as well.
This is case number 2069. The application of F. Naomi Weinberg and Edward Burke for a special permit is set forth in General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6, under Orleans zoning bylaw, Sections 164-20, 164-21A, Note 5, and 164-21C, to renovate a pre-existing dwelling. Let the record reflect that Associate Member Bruce Taub has joined the meeting before the start of this hearing. Now, this is to...
Mr. Marnick, I'm sorry, may I interrupt? Do we have a packet on this? I have blueprints, but do I have a packet on
Yes,
Yes.
Burke and Weinberg?
yes.
I think
I do.
there's an explanation here. I think there's something that was submitted recently since the original packet, Peter.
Oh,
I think that the applicant will address that. The applications is to renovate a pre-existing dwelling which is non-conforming due to setback from a coastal bank, number of dwelling units, and square footage. This property is located at 16 Haywood Lane, Orleans, map number 50, parcel number 4. Has any member of the board had any communication with the applicant or any of the applicant's agents which ought to be disclosed to the board and to the public, or would otherwise give rise to a conflict of interest? No, there's no positive response. Therefore, I declare that the board is impartial and there is no disqualification. I have, now, there was, can you bring us up to date?
Sure, yeah.
Now, the original application was filed on
September 7th.
September 7th, and it went to publication. Now, we've got some new plans here. Can you tell us?
Just on September 27th, on September 7th, we filed everything, existing and proposed site plans, as well as existing and proposed elevations. It was noted belatedly that the elevations showed a 22 square foot enclosure over a front stoop. That had not been reflected on the site plan. So on September 27th, we just updated the site plan to show an enclosed stoop on the guest house and added 22 square feet to the building coverage. So that's the only change that occurred on September 27th. It was small, but we did want it noted so that when you went to approve the proper site plan, you were referencing the September 27th version.
Very well.
Rather than the September 7th
You know,
version.
We're going to proceed on using the plan entitled Plan Showing Proposed Site Modifications dated Rev. 9/27/17. This has been on file since that date.
Yes.
So that anyone who had been given notice of the hearing would have had this available at least for inspection from the 27th of September until now.
Correct. And that enclosure I referenced was shown on the original elevation, so anybody who had come in from September 7th forward would have seen it. Really, the only difference, because the site plan footprint would have showed that footprint from the beginning. It's just the 22 extra square feet in the coverage table that changed.
Very well, I see no reason. I consider that to be a sufficiently, unless there was just an objection from the public, someone who was present tonight, I think that that's a minimal change and wouldn't prevent you from proceeding nor a new publication. I think you raised another question in an email to the board secretary. We ought to be dealing with that too.
I just noted that while we are seeking a special permit under 164-21A Note 5, because this proposal is in excess of 4,000 square feet, and that section is cited in the agenda. It didn't occur to me until I read the other two agenda items that the actual language relative to in excess of 4,000 square feet wasn't referenced in our agenda item. But I think that the reference to the actual section number correctly makes that notice accurate.
I believe that. I agree with you, and I consider the notice to be sufficient.
Just wanted folks to know why I was talking about 4,000 square feet. So you have 3 on your agenda tonight that are under this provision.
The existing coverage is 3592, and now you're bumping it over.
In excess of it.
So you weren't 4,000
Correct.
square feet to begin with.
Correct.
All right.
I mean, the existing property coverage is 3592. The initial filing that we made was 4682. When you
Yes.
add the 22 square feet, we're up to 4704, I believe.
Yes.
Yeah. So we always needed the 4,000 square foot relief, and that's what we are here for tonight.
Very well. Now, having taken care of
Yeah.
housekeeping, tell us what we really need to know.
Sure. So Ted Burke and Naomi Weinberg have spent years purchasing this property. It took us quite a while to get through conservation, and we are happy to have succeeded in that earlier last month. With me tonight are Brad Malo from Coastal Engineering, who's the project engineer, and also Aaron Polhemus and Aaron Udvardi, who are with Polhemus Savory. They're the architects for this particular project. And this project is very similar to the one that you saw me present last month, in as much as it's a coastal property with more than one dwelling unit on it. And we are going to ultimately be reducing the number of dwellings. You'll hear me talk about that. And also the coastal bank setback issue is an existing nonconformity that we are reducing by virtue of this project. And we're seeking the relief over 4,000 square feet. So this tracks very similar to the one that I was here about last month, except obviously the property is different. So the facts, if I can briefly review them with you, that are site-specific include the fact that this particular lot is over 100,000 square feet. It's 102,230 square feet in area. It's a very large lot, and 75,040 square feet of that is buildable upland as defined in your bylaw. The property, as you can see from this architectural rendering of the sketch, but probably more clearly on the site plan you have in front of you, is in a peninsula. And so it's surrounded on three sides by a coastal bank. And if you look at the very center of your site plan only, the very sliver in the middle is outside the 50-foot buffer to both the coastal bank and also outside the ACEC. So necessarily this project was going to fall within the 50-foot buffer. The existing house, if you're looking at your existing conditions plan, shows 3 distinct detached dwellings. There's a primary dwelling right on the water that contains 6 bedrooms. There is a guest house that contains a bedroom, and there is a detached garage with living space above that counts as a bedroom as well. There's a kitchen and bath in there. As we referenced earlier, the existing coverage is 3,592 square feet, so almost 3,600. That's only, though, 4.8% of the buildable upland area, so still dramatically under the 15% building coverage limitation in this residential zoning district. With respect to the coastal bank setback, I could put the existing plan up for you since we can be looking at it together. So here is the 50-foot setback from the top of the bank. The purple here is the ACEC line, and the rest of it is all within the 50-foot buffer and within the Pleasant Bay ACEC. This house, as you can see, is actually constructed on this western corner into the top of the coastal bank. At its furthest location on the south, which is the most water-facing side, it is only 24 feet at one point. That's its furthest. It's 15 feet, and it obviously gets further back as you go this way. But it is a pre-existing nonconformity in that it is sitting in the coastal bank, and your setback requires that it be set back at least 1.5 times the height of the house, although no more than 50 feet. Our proposed project, in comparison, moves the house back significantly. We're going to be moving the goal from the Conservation Commission's perspective was to site as much of the main portion of the house outside of the ACEC and outside of the 50-foot buffer as possible. So the main house is actually now outside the 50 on this side with a water view. And the corner over here, where it used to be on the coastal bank, is now set back some 14 feet from the top of the coastal bank. So we're reducing that nonconformity on the one side, and we're eliminating it altogether on the other side. This side will be fully compliant. So that there are 3 coastal banks, if you wanted to call them that, as it wraps around the property, and we are substantially reducing the existing nonconformity with this proposal. In addition, this is a roofed connector And so the main house and its attached garage are considered by the building commissioner a single dwelling unit. And the guest house has been moved out of here, out of the ACEC. And so there are now only two, the result will be only two dwellings on the property. So we're again reducing that nonconformity from 3 down to 2. The finished net product, as we were discussing, is still 4,700 square feet in area, and so we do need special permit under your bylaw. Section 21A, Note 5, that requires a special permit for all structures in excess of 4,000 square feet. And also, because we're not eliminating the coastal bank altogether, the building commissioner suggested that we seek a special permit to alter that pre-existing non-conforming condition of the coastal bank under 164.3C1 of your bylaw. So we are requesting those two forms of a relief. They both fall nicely under section 164.44 of your bylaw, which is the special permit provision, where we must demonstrate to the board that these proposed changes we're making to the site will not be substantially more detrimental to the neighborhood and will not be detrimental to the future or established character of the neighborhood, nor we also need to show that the use will be in harmony with the general purpose and intent of the chapter. And to do that, you look to your 8 criteria that you are all familiar, that is set forth in that section 44 of the zoning bylaw. And I did submit a narrative with this particular application. We submitted the elevations as well, both existing and proposed, so you can compare the differences. And we have them on boards if anyone has any questions, and the architects are here as well. But if I can briefly go through the criteria. First being whether the site is adequate in terms of size for the proposed use. At 4,704 square feet, we raise the total building coverage in comparison to lot area to only 6.3%. So that's still less than half of what's allowed in the underlying zoning district. Winds up to be a 1.5% increase over what's existing now. So they're not making this hugely different than what exists there now. Importantly, and as with the last application, I think your Conservation Commission does a really good job of making sure that that increased coverage is shifted further from the coastal resource areas, which are probably the most defining character of this neighborhood. It's a coastal shoreline community in this area of town, and that landward migration will really ensure that the environmentally sensitive areas along the coast are protected, including those areas within the Pleasant Bay ACEC. So as I indicated, the finished construction will still be less than half of what is the maximum allowed in this district, and therefore we feel the site is definitely adequate for the size of this proposed house. Also, the site is suitable, of course, for the proposed use. It was residential. It will continue to be residential. We are reducing that dwelling count, where your bylaw requires that there be no more than 2 dwelling units. There are existing 3, so we're going to improve that and bring it to 2. That is allowed within the residential zoning district, and therefore we meet the second criteria. We don't believe there will be any alteration of the existing traffic flow or the provision of utilities and public services, nor undue noise and litter, because all of this, the conditions are going to remain the same with respect to the density of the usage on this site. There are 8 bedrooms. Presently, we're proposing 8 bedrooms, so the use of the site is going to be maintained as consistent. We also believe, as with the last proposal we were here in front of you, that we're substantially increasing the neighborhood's visual character. We're not going to impede its views or vistas, primarily due to the landward migration of the property, but also because of all of the additional landscaping, again, that we're proposing here. As part of this proposal in front of the Conservation Commission, we've had to add over a half an acre of additional plantings that are really well illustrated in this sketch. Here, In addition to heavily maintaining this bank, we're going to do some invasive species management and planting down here. We've also planted in this area here over 3,400 square feet, which is establishing that 25-foot buffer at the top of the bank, which really serves to screen this house, I think, from the water. So in addition to moving the house back, you have a lot of this screening going on from the water view up, and I think that's best illustrated by this cross-section that we created for the Conservation Commission, where you have an existing house right on the top of the bank. And this was taken from the section of the house that's actually furthest from the bank, the 24 feet. But it is very sparsely vegetated, and the deck is only 15 feet from that top of the bank. We're moving it all the way back here to 59 feet away from the top of the bank now, and we are heavily planting this area with shrubs and herbaceous grasses, as well as creating that 25-foot buffer. In addition, we're creating this native polymer meadow that they have established here. That's actually on the face of the bank. It's an upland area, but it is seaward of the top of Coastal Bank, and that meadow was an additional area of restoration proposed for this project, but also serves to screen the view from the water on that west side. So the combination of that screening plus the retreat landward, I think, will really improve the views and vistas here and serve to further screen this house from the public view shed. It's a long driveway coming in, so you're really not seeing it from the water. The only public's view really is from the road. The only public view is from the water. Sewage disposal system will be adequate and in fact improved over existing conditions. We're moving that septic out of the ACEC to the very, very top of even landward of where the guest house is. So it will improve groundwater protection by being moved in that location. Again, we're not increasing the bedroom count. And finally, your eighth criteria is whether the proposed project will serve to improve groundwater quality, as well as the abutting coastal surface water bodies. And again, we feel that with this lot of restoration work and the invasive species management on the bank, and the new vegetation, which includes 11 native trees and 170 native shrubs, as well as hundreds of native grasses and forbs, that we are going to be stabilizing that the sediment that is on the face of that bank, and enabling it to be more resistant to erosion, which does improve water quality and is in fact one of the things that the Conservation Commission looks very closely at when they're reviewing these things. So we feel that these improvements will serve to actually improve the coastal surface water bodies, and of course then moving the Title V septic system and leaching component way to the back will improve the groundwater quality as well on site. So that's a lot of information very quickly stated, but I think we've reviewed your criteria. And based on these improvements, we feel that this project will not be substantially more detrimental. In fact, will improve and enhance this neighborhood, and we are request that you grant the special permit relief.
We may conclude that because the roadside area of the lot, and due to its magnificent size, the new work will be relatively concealed.
Right.
But we're looking at more recently the view from, in this case, the river. And what you say is by demolishing the existing structure, you're not going to just clear cut and now have a 59-foot setback from the coastal bank. What you're doing is landscaping it in such a way that the view from the water has been tempered. I suppose the answer to that is because of the height, and you're not looking for any relief for the height of the new structure, that the height is sufficient to provide views of the water from the structure. at least from the second floor, where, on the other hand, from the water, because of the plantings that you described
Yep.
just now, that there's a softening of the harshness of the new and magnificent structure, the architectural details of which are quite significant. Now, what's missing here is the hard work that you did with the Conservation Commission. Ordinarily, we have the order. I assume that the order
Sorry.
was, that there's an approval.
Yes.
And the order must be on record now.
This was filed actually before the order was issued. The approval had been voted, and the order issued the week after, I believe, that I filed this. So they approved it at their meeting on September 5th, and they issued the order on, like, the 21st, I think, and I should have provided you with a copy.
Well, that's okay.
But
It really ought to be part of
Yeah.
this file, because
Yeah.
we take all of the previous permitting and approvals into consideration, trying to be, as much as possible, the last stop before the permit.
Right. And I forgot one thing in my presentation that I know the architects are going to want me to point out to you. The guest house way in the back, if you look in your proposed elevations for the guest house, on the southeast elevation, it was a straight deck with a railing on top, and they've opted not to do the deck with the railing, and they didn't want me to get, again, similarly, the site plan approved, these guest house elevations approved with that deck and railing, because the clients are no longer going forward with it. So I've brought these revised elevations, and that's the only change. They have no deck and railing on the guest house. So I'm hoping that's minimal enough, and because it's a reduction, not an addition, that we can swap that out tonight.
It is, and thank you for your candor. I don't ordinarily, we generally pride ourselves in passing on the validity of the plans that we
Yeah.
see on, but what happens with your dealings with the building inspector after you leave here and you've got this approval?
Right,
Um,
with a date on a plan.
Sometimes, more often than not, we hear nothing, so I assume there's nothing. But every once in a while, someone wonders, do we need to come back in for this? And we're savvy enough to know that in construction, that kind of thing happens. And
So I have 12 copies. I know you don't need 12, but I'll just replace your, it's the same set, it just has that one deletion.
thank you. Well, then, I will allow questions by the board. Mr. Todd?
No, sir.
Mr. Chaplin?
I have none.
Mr. Mulligan?
I just have a couple of, what is drivable lawn?
They're telling me there are 9 bedrooms in the, I counted 8. There are 9 bedrooms in the
another
proposed house.
8, 9, 12, 15.
There are 9. I counted it myself.
What is drivable lawn? And why do you want it on the coastal bank down to the front of the house?
Yeah, go ahead.
Brad, you want to say one? You want to pull them?
I think there's a picture of it in the first slide.
Yes, so-
First leg.
Aaron Paulimus Savory de Silva, for the record, below.
That one there, isn't it?
Yes, so
This one?
No, the one next one.
I can explain.
Yeah, there. Isn't it that one?
I think it's easiest to probably
Oh,
point it
yeah,
out.
it is shown here.
So, in this area here, part of during the conservation process, or the Conservation Commission process, we were asked to work on reducing some of the impervious or driveway area in this area. So we proposed the drivable lawn, which is it's a lawn, it's grass, it's planted within basically PVC cups. So it's PVC cups that are linked together that provide stability, and it's fully pervious and you can drive on it. So that area, we will be installing
And where does it go? Where is it?
well, it wraps, do you want to point it out there, Brad? Brad can point it out there. See the green area there? It
Yeah.
allows vehicles to get from the driveway into the garage.
And that's the coastal bank and the Conservation Commission.
Well, we actually pulled quite a bit out of that area, so,
I mean, it's sort of their hunt, but it's
yeah,
surprising to me. Anyway,
that's how it works.
Well, I understand how it works. How's it maintained?
It just like any other lawn, you just cut it.
the cups are buried.
Yeah, the cups are buried in the
That's a firm
I've
base.
seen something
in the ground.
I've seen something similar to that, but it was more of a grid,
Yeah,
a
bricks.
there's different-
concrete grid.
Yeah. There's different materials. We've typically done the PVC cups that are attached and basically bury them in the ground, and then you plant the grass and it grows like grass, but it's structural. You can drive a vehicle over it.
In answer to your question, the garage and pool house itself was pulled back inside the 50. So in order to do that, the driveway had to come there, so that was the trade-off. Again, they were trying to site the bulk of this construction in the center of the site and get as much of the building structure out of the 50. And so that's why it's located there and why the driveway was ultimately allowed. But we did have to come up with this innovative way to not have a pervious or even shell driveway there. They preferred this.
Thank you.
Why isn't this generally more preferable? Given that
Right.
you're alleviating drainage for.
Right.
Well,
What is-
it
what
is
is
more
the-
involved. I mean, it is a more costly alternative. Our clients were willing to accept that for the project to be permittable. It requires more maintenance. So it's not necessarily, ideal from a client perspective, but our client was accepting of it through the permitting process.
Very well.
We did take up currently there's impervious driveway coming the whole way in. So the bulk of it is now this.
Yeah, the existing driveway is a paved asphalt driveway, which is being removed and replaced with a combination of
Pervious.
pervious
And then the grass.
pave.
And you can see where it stops at the 50-foot buffer on the proposed site condition.
Mr. Mulligan, you have any further
No,
examination?
Mr. Chairman, thank you.
Ms. McCartney?
I guess it would have been an easier approach to the garage and redo the garage and pool house, but it's not my property, so I'm fine.
Ms. Geeson, do you have any questions?
No questions at this time.
Very well, then, is there anyone present wishing to, let the record reflect that there are no letters in the file received by the board in opposition or in favor of the application. Is there anyone present wishing to speak in favor of the application? In opposition to the application? In general comment to the application? There's no positive response. Do you have anything further?
I don't.
And I will,
Who's voting? So
I was about to declare that. Voting on this, we have the following 5 members, myself, Mr. McCartney, Mr. Mulligan, Mr. Jablin, and Mr. Taub.
Could I ask a somewhat irrelevant question at this point in time?
Well,
No.
I mean, yes, you may.
Mine was irrelevant, so
we
you
have-
can-
No. Yours was very relevant. Because we won't get an opportunity to ask this again, what motivated the entire project?
Well, so this, I don't know if you've seen the existing housing stock, but it's pretty old, and it hasn't, the current owners took quite some time. They had their eye on this property for several years, and it took several years to actually close on it due to some existing environmental issues that needed to be cleared up. And so they closed in 2016 and immediately began designing this project. They have young children. They've been really keen to move their summer home to the Orleans area. They've fallen in love with it. And they're just a young family who want to live on this beautiful site, and the current house is not currently livable. Hasn't been maintained, so that's the motivation.
Thank you.
We'll close the hearing for the taking of evidence and ask if there's, well, I'd entertain I'm in favor of the application. There's no opposition to it, and it appears to be well thought of and through, and we can make findings which would satisfy the requirements of a special permit. So entertain a motion to approve the application and issue a special permit.
So moved.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Is there any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? The motion carries unanimously. I will write the opinion. Would you kindly favor the board and through the board secretary with an electronic version of the analysis?
Yes. Yes.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Anyone else like to?
Perfect.
All right.
Mr. Chairman, I'm going to recuse myself from this.
Very well.
This here.
I'll call case number 2070. This is the application of William Kurzban, Peter Kurzban, and Jane Kurzban Cannon for a special permit as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 9, under Orleans zoning bylaw, Section 16421A, Note 5, to combine 3 lots into 2 lots, resulting in building coverage which exceeds 4,000 square feet. This property is located at 3, 7, 9, and 12 Ewing Road and 180 Quonset Road, Orleans, map 93, and parcels 25, 26A, B, and C, and number 16. Considering this will be the following, following members. Mr. Mulligan, if the record shows in the file, was notified along with others as an abutter and has withdrawn from consideration and is observing the hearing. Go ahead and you may proceed then. Oh, has any member of the board had any conversation with or communication with the applicant or any of the applicant's agents about the application for special permit, which ought to be disclosed or would otherwise give rise to a conflict of interest? There's no positive response.
Ask a clarifying question.
Yes.
In a few of the prior instances where recusal was necessary and the board member asked to sit in the room just out of interest, we were instructed that that was not appropriate. I'm not suggesting I know what's right or wrong, I just wanted to clarify.
I don't remember that specifically, Mr. Taub. Customarily, a member who had some disclosed or undisclosed concern and withdrew from consideration of the hearing, withdrew from the room altogether.
Yes.
I don't think we can do that. Mr. Mulligan
Oh,
has
inasmuch as he's
chosen,
in a butter.
has chosen not to do that. He's observing the hearing as a person of interest, we'll say, because he's in a butter.
I'm happy if the chair's happy.
May I ask Mr. Mulligan a
Otherwise,
question? Oh.
otherwise we could, there's all kinds of different ways we could disqualify members of the board. I mean, just
The more arcane, the better.
Well, we have 5 members, so we're going to,
May I ask Mr. Mulligan a question? Can I use your file? This is 2070, it's right here. Thank you, okay, thanks.
or you could have mine.
But it's okay, I'm
Okay,
good, I'm
this is
good.
good.
Okay, thank
All
you,
right,
thank you.
because I've got the file, Peter.
Yes, sir.
Mr. Little.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the board, David Little from Ryder and Wilcox, representing the Kurzban family. We were hired by the Kurzban family to go to the planning board to take 3 lots and combine them into 2 lots. The family has been marketing this property as 3 lots for many years now, and they have not been successful in selling it, and they need to sell a portion of the property for family reasons. So what we did is we designed a new subdivision which increased the buildable area of the lot that fronts on Pleasant Bay, and then combined the other 2 lots together. I have an exhibit I would like to pass out that will aid me in my presentation this evening.
You,
Sure.
Thanks.
Oh, it's color-coded.
So essentially what's happening is we're taking 3 lots and we're turning them into 2. If I can draw your attention to the handout, what I show is the existing configuration shows the Panhandle lot to the south in white, the existing central lot with all of the properties on it in yellow, and the other lot in white above that. If I could draw your attention to the next sheet, we are taking those 3 lots and turning them into 2. We're making the Panhandle lot on the water larger, and we're also making the lot that contains all of the houses larger. So George Meservey advised us that we needed to come to the Zoning Board of Appeals before going to the Planning Board because we are altering a lot with structures on it that exceed 4,000 square feet. The interesting part of this is that the alteration results in an increase in the buildable upland and a reduction in the building coverage. So the trigger here is that we're altering the property lines on a lot that with buildings that exceed 4,000 square feet, so it requires a special permit. The good part that I can point out to the zoning board is that we are changing the percentage of building coverage by 1.1%. We're going from 8.1% down to 7% building coverage because we're increasing the size of the lot with the dwellings on them by 10,336 square feet. So this is really a formality. It's 164 21A Note 5 for coverage where we're exceeding the 4,000 square foot threshold, which brings us before you. The actual amount of buildable building coverage of 5,651 square feet does not change. What is changing is the property lines and the change in the percentage of building coverage. Does everybody follow me at this point?
I do.
where did Lot 2 go in the proposed? The one that's identified as Lot 2 on the existing?
So there, right
Is that the extent of Lot 2,
before we go to the planning board, right now, there's a Panhandle lot,
right?
there is Lot 2,
Yeah,
and there's also a frontage lot up
yeah,
here.
got that.
So we are turning it into
No, my only point, and maybe I wasn't clear, and I apologize, is this appears as almost like the only freestanding lot. This is lot 1, and this is lot 2. This
Going,
little
that
bu-
that extends all the way down to the water.
Oh, it extends now,
It
continuing
will
down.
continue all the way down to
Okay.
the water.
That's what I didn't understand.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So we feel that, I'm going to go right into the special permit criteria. The Lot 1 that contains the buildings is suitable for the proposed coverage. The resulting total area equals 117,498 square feet, resulting in an upland area of 80,205 square feet, which is important because both lots, that lot does contain 2 dwelling units, so we are required to have in excess of 80,000 square feet of buildable upland. So we feel the site is adequate. The lot is suitable for the proposed building coverage of 5,651, which is approximately 7% of the building coverage, which is less than half of the allowable 15%. And as I mentioned before, we're actually reducing the building coverage by 1.1% via the addition of the northerly lot to the property. Other than that, there would be no additional impact on traffic flow or safety. There is no change in the impact on neighborhood visual character. There will be no new impact on the method of sewage disposal, source of water, or drainage. Utilities and public services will not be impacted. There will be no noise or litter. And the change in the lot lines will have no new impact on groundwater quality, recharge volume, and water quality of freshwater bodies. So we feel that essentially moving the property lines and turning 3 lots into 2 is certainly not substantially more detrimental, and I would suggest that it creates a better situation for the family and for the neighborhood in that we're eliminating 1 lot and creating 2 larger lots. So that would be my presentation, and I'll open myself up to questions. Thank you.
I'd like to ask you a question, please. I'm trying to get my bearings here. This is Quonset coming
Yes.
down here. I'm familiar with this area. Where would be you see Pleasant Bay, where would be the direction of the public landing? Is it
Right
this way?
Yes, right there, Mr. Jablon. When you come down, this is the beginning of the public landing. The
Okay.
public landing is right there.
And then, so, right now, there's a property, there's an old, like an 1830s shingled dwelling, and then there's a barn, which is converted into several, that's on the immediate left. That's not in this picture. Is it? Where's that? In other words, when you go down,
It's the dwelling, it's the big dwelling there. Right,
So there's an antique, there's a big dwelling in the rear, and then
Okay.
an antique structure in the front.
okay, that, I know where it is now. I got it. That used to be a barn, I think, and that was converted into multiple family,
It-
multiple units? Okay.
Believe it or not, it's a condominium now,
Oh.
and they are going to have to do away with the condominium use. But that is going to happen after ZBA and after planning board approval.
I know where it is now, okay. Thank you.
Well, the real purpose of this is to make Lot 2 far more attractive.
And
That's the
More buildable.
That's really the story behind the story. Because
That is-
you're
you-
not adding 2 square feet to anything,
you have cut to the
footprint.
chase, Mr. Marnick.
you see, and you've added up top, which was always really the highest and best use because it serves the building as it presently exists. And all to the, otherwise it would have been to the detriment of the combined second and third, so you've reconstructed that. So now the new Lot 2 has, well, we end up with 43,000 square feet, give or take, of buildable upland, which makes it an attractive area.
Yes.
Okay,
We'll see them again.
maybe not. I think
I think we've created, with
Yeah,
Lot
they-
2, we have created enough
I didn't even look.
buildable upland that I don't see any reason that they would have to come back other than the 4,000 square foot trigger. If they wanted to build a house that exceeded 4,000 square feet on Lot 2, Mr. Taub, we would be back, but it's.
Yeah, you've got the flood area too to
Yeah.
deal with, so, but it's still, it's, this is the highest and best use now.
We believe so.
Any questions by any other members of the board? Very well. Is there anyone wishing to speak in favor of this application?
I would like,
Mr. Mulligan?
Gerald Mulligan, 16 Union Drive. As you can see, we are the abutter of both lots. And these are wonderful neighbors, and we're happy to support this effort. I just want to address one issue about the density, which seems to be the issue here. If you're familiar with this lot, as I think you are, some of you are, there's no sense of density at all on this property. It's such a big lot, and there's contours in the land that really divide this land from, it's, matter of fact, it feels very spacious and not close or overly built upon. So I'm very supportive of the application.
Very well. Is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? In opposition to this application? In general comment to the application? There's no positive response, therefore, unless you have something further, Mr. Little, I'll declare the hearing closed to the taking of evidence and ask for the pleasure of the board.
Mr. Chairman,
Mr. Taub?
you know, there are just so many times when it's better not to say anything. But I think that Mr. Mulligan's comments were the very reason that board members are asked to recuse themselves, and they were inappropriate to take, sir.
Let the record reflect that, Bob Holden, members of the board, have any members of the board had any communication with Mr. Mulligan concerning this application? I have not. Mr. Jablon?
No.
Mr. Taub?
No, sir.
Ms. Geisler?
No.
Ms. McCartney?
No?
Does that satisfy you?
I understand your comment. I made a ruling before, that Mr. Mulligan had every right to speak as a citizen
Okay,
on this application.
okay, I heard
As
you, I
As
heard
you
you.
would even if you weren't in the butter, as long as you took your place off the
No,
board.
no, I understand that. I understand that well. I raised the question because I was concerned. I heard your answer to be that he would be in the audience as a witness to the proceedings. I did not understand that he might also comment favorably or unfavorably. And it is, is this okay to have this conversation
It's
or not?
fine, yes, that's fine. I understand that.
Okay, okay. The concern of having somebody with an interest recuse themselves, as I understand it, is to avoid the appearance of influencing other members of the board who might be biased in favor of the board member. And their participation, if I understood the training we got from town council, that's what I'm relying on exclusively. I know nothing about this independently. That was the reason for the recusal, was so that it would not be perceived that they, why else would they recuse themselves other than that they might have undue influence both here and there?
Because
Miss
they
Sickley.
might
Would
have
have-
a monetary gain if they voted.
Mr. Mulligan would have a conflict of interest if he stayed in this seat.
Absolutely. That's,
Once he-
no, absolutely.
Once he's excused, then he is entitled to, and nor does the board, the chair or anyone else, have the ability to control or dictate what Mr. Mulligan's remarks may be, or anyone else who takes a seat in this room. we give.
I'm happy with
And that's,
that
then
ruling.
that's what we've done.
And I will tell you that there was a presentation here at one point in time in which I had a personal relationship with the architect. And I needed to recuse myself. And because I had interest in the project, not even any personal interest, because I had interest, I inquired if I could stay in the room. And I was told that I could not and should not. And I spent that part of the meeting across the hall. I'm just telling you,
All right, well, I don't remember that.
okay? Okay.
I don't.
Well, I
remember.
don't, you know,
I'm aware that town council has made that recommendation, that it's appropriate, but I'm not sure that it's necessarily required.
see, you need a lawyer, it's good. It was appropriate versus required. I don't think is it required is the
I
question.
just don't remember that. I don't remember,
don't
Mr.
either,
Todd,
sir.
that occasion involving you.
And I also
Did you
remember
bring-
it involving
did
Mr.
you-
Cole. I also remember
Mr.
Mr.
Cole
Cole.
happens relatively frequently for one reason or another, and sometimes the reason is disclosed and sometimes it isn't. But for the record, I don't have any independent memory of Mr. Cole ever,
Asking to stay.
yes, either
No.
either assisting an applicant or making a comment
No,
on an
no.
application. If, I do not recall the previous incident involving you, but did you disclose then that you wished to address the board on that application?
Absolutely not.
Very well.
I bear no interest in anything other than making sure we're clear for God knows, that's what we do. We're the Board of Appeals. So,
Well, we certainly can
you
stay for
ruled
the,
you ruled from the chair. I'm comfortable with that. You polled the board, it's fine.
and there has been no objection
There's
to.
no objection.
There's been no objection to the application in any form.
Nor frankly was there an objection to if I objected, I withdraw that. I wanted to discuss.
No, I never heard you object to
Fine,
Mr.
fine.
Mulligan's
Okay, I want that
statement.
understood. Okay, fine. We're good.
Very well. Then, is there any further discussion before we proceed to a motion?
I only want to add that, knowing that area, I think that's a good use of the land, and it's absolutely fine
Very well.
in all respects.
There are 5 competent members. I will entertain a motion to issue the special permit as
So moved.
requested in the application. Is there a second?
Second?
Ms. McCartney. Any discussion on the motion? All those in favor?
Aye.
And opposed? Motion carries unanimously.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Little. I will write the opinion.
Good.
Mr. Mulligan, you may
Oh, we have
Resume.
another one?
resume your seat.
I got the wrong stuff today. October.
Yeah, me too.
Well, Sheriff, there's another, was there?
Members of the board, I have case number 2071, which is the application of Elizabeth S. Bentley for a special permit and a variance as set forth in General Laws, Chapter 48, Section 6, under Orleans zoning bylaw, Section 164, 3C1B, 164-20, and 164-21A, Notes 3 and 5, to reconstruct a pre-existing dwelling destroyed by fire resulting in
Sheriff,
building
yeah.
coverage which exceeds
Thanks.
4,000 square feet. The
that,
property is
read that already.
located
Thanks.
at 64 Tides End Lane, Orleans, map number 42, parcel 93. All of the present members may inquire, however, the following members will consider this application: myself, Ms. McCartney, Mr. Mulligan, Mr. Jablin, and Mr. Taub. Has any member of the board had any communication with the applicant or any of the applicant's agents concerning the application, and which ought to be, which communication should be disclosed to the public or would otherwise constitute a conflict of interest. There's no positive response, therefore I declare that the members of the board, all members of the board, are indifferent and impartial. Mr. Little, you may proceed, please.
Thank you.
Oh, by the way, nowhere in the application did we determine when the fire occurred.
If I may, Mr. Chairman, David Little, for the record, representing Betsy Bentley.
Yes.
Betsy Bentley cannot attend. She unfortunately came down with shingles. She has sent her husband, Nigel, in her place. And Nigel, can you tell us when the fire occurred?
It would have been at the very end of July 2016.
Thank
Or
you.
beginning of August, right in that.
Great,
Thank you.
okay, thank you.
So, Ryder and Wilcox, we've been working with the Studley family that own the point down on the bend in the river coming out of Meeting House Pond for approximately 28 years. We've done many, many projects with them. We've licensed their dock. We've permitted additions to the house. We've elevated the house on the water, so during extreme high tides, it no longer gets flooded on a regular basis. The house on the water now only gets flooded during significant storm events. And we even re-subdivided the property for them. But the reason I'm here this evening is that back in 1992, Betsy Bentley's father, Jim Studley, obtained a permit, or we obtained a permit for him to construct a storage building. I provided you with the elevations that I got out of the building department's file. It was quite a fancy storage building, if I may say so. And it did have a bathroom in it, which was allowed, but Mr. Studley was advised at that point in time that if bedrooms were to be, the rooms were to be used as bedrooms, he would have to expand the septic system. And I don't know if he forgot or what happened, but at some point in time, this building on the property, which was permitted, and I provided you the plan that we prepared back in '92 that showed a proposed storage building. At some point in time, subsequent to that, it was allowed to have a septic connection, but work was done on it, and a permit was never asked for, or they never went to the Board of Health to get permission to make the leaching facility on the septic system bigger. The bottom line is that the property at that time contained 40,000 square feet of buildable upland. It had 150 feet of frontage, so it legally could have been approved for a second dwelling unit, but Mr. Studley didn't go through the process of doing that. And it came to our attention in subsequent to the fire that gutted the place. I don't know if any of you took the time to look in the windows, but the place was gutted by fire. It took a long time for the fire department to get down there to put it out. Subsequent to that, we found, when doing research to rebuild the two-bedroom dwelling for the Studley family, that they never obtained the proper permit to add the two bedrooms. And so in my discussions with Tom Evers, he advised me that we needed to do several things. We needed to go to the Conservation Commission, we needed to go to the Board of Health, and for their approvals, and we also needed to come to the Zoning Board of Appeals for a special permit because we're exceeding the 4,000 square foot trigger for building coverage, but also a variance for an after-the-fact change in use of the structure from a storage building to a two-bedroom house. So, by way of history, we prepared this plan. It was approved. The Board of Health signed off on it. The Building Department signed off on it. We subsequently did a subdivision of the property where we made the lot larger. In 1986, the Studley property looked like this. And in 1993, we re-subdivided lots 10 and 9, and we actually created more buildable upland, and they became 17 and 16. We got permits to build the screen porch that's down next to the house. The property has been under scrutiny from Board of Health, Building Department, Conservation Commission for 28 years now, and
Oops.
the owner should have gotten a permit from the Board of Health to enlarge his leaching facility to have the 2 bedrooms legally. So I am here to ask for a variance for the after-the-fact construction of 2 bedrooms in the house by Betsy Bentley's father, who is quite ill. He no longer lives in this area. He's in Florida. I don't know the circumstances of how this occurred, but I don't think there was any intent to deceive any boards, because Jim Studley's been one of our best customers over the year. He always said he provided Ryder and Wilcox with an annuity. So he always did everything he was supposed to. I honestly believe that this was a mistake, and unfortunately, the house burned down, and we're in this position now. We did go to the Board of Health. I provided you with a copy of the variances that were granted to enlarge the septic system to accommodate a 2-bedroom dwelling. We did go to the Conservation Commission. The plan, the record plan before you, dated revised 7/17/2017, was approved by the Conservation Commission. They've issued an order of conditions for the project. One of the conditions, or the only significant condition that I can bring to your attention, is that they are requiring that they replace 7 trees. There are going to be a few trees that are going to be removed as a result of a construction of a new driveway. So that's kind of the history of what brought us to this point. And if I may, before I answer any questions, I would like to go through the special permit and variance criteria.
Please.
I'm going to do the easy one first. That's the special permit. So similarly, as with the first 2 applications you saw before us, we are asking to increase building coverage over 4,000 square feet. We are asking to go from 3,744 square feet to 4,573. Fortunately, because of the limited amount of buildable upland on this property, we exceed the 15% maximum threshold of buildable upland. We only have 20,853 square feet of buildable upland on a 1.6 acre lot. So we are presently at 18% buildable upland, which is non-conforming, and we are going to 21.9%, which is increasing in existing nonconformity, which I believe we are correct in doing that via a special permit. Given the fact that And if I could draw your attention to this site plan, we refer to it as the boathouse, but it's actually a two-bedroom dwelling. There will come a day when this boathouse is probably going to have to go back to a boathouse. They actually keep their refrigerator and some of the mechanicals in the garage to protect from flooding. So there will be a day that this will no longer be a habitable space, and given the fact that we only have a little bit of buildable upland here, it reduces our upland figure significantly. So one of the things that Betsy wanted to do was to increase the size of this a little bit to make it a suitable two-bedroom house. We still believe it's a modest design. We've provided you with existing floor plans and elevations prepared by Michelle Coletti Singleton. And if you look at the floor plans, it's still a modest house. And we're locating it in a very tight area of being 50 feet away from the top of the coastal bank everywhere, so we don't trigger the coastal bank setback. So as for the special permit criteria for for the increase in coverage, we feel that the 1.6 acre site is adequate for the increase in coverage. The proposed dwelling is located 50 feet away from the flood zone and coastal bank. It's a residential use, so we feel it's suitable. The change is suitable for replacing the burned down structure with a new one. There would be no additional impact on traffic flow and safety. There will be a negligible impact on neighborhood visual character. You really can't see this house unless you drive all the way down to the end of the road where the Studley's family owns the last two properties. The new house that we're hoping can be built high on the hill isn't visible from the water when you go out Meeting House Pond and around the river. As to the adequacy of method of sewage disposal, source of water, and drainage, as I mentioned earlier, the Board of Health has approved a variance for the installation of a new leaching facility located over 50 feet from the coastal bank and flood zone. The utilities and public services are not impacted by the proposal. There will be no noise or litter other than the temporary construction. During temporary construction, the impacts from that. A dumpster would remain on site. And as to the groundwater quality, recharge volume, and water quality of coastal and freshwater bodies, the Conservation Commission has issued an order of conditions for the project to help assure the protection of these valuable resources. And as I mentioned, there was the condition that we replace 7 trees in this area. We are also proposing, there is an existing lawn area down here that has a couple of horseshoe pits in it and is presently mowed. We are proposing to allow that to become a naturalized area, and so we're trying to create a little bit more of a buffer that does help filter stormwater runoff from the site before it finds its way to the river. So as to the special permit for exceeding the 4,000 square feet, we feel that this is in keeping with the general purpose and harmony of the chapter, and that change would not be more detrimental to the neighborhood or the area in which they live. As to the variance, forgive me, I've got a few different pieces going here. So we have asked for a variance for the after-the-fact change in the use of the structure from a storage building to a single-family dwelling with 2 bedrooms. The requirement to have 2 bedrooms on a piece of property is that you have 80,000 square feet of buildable upland. We only have, as I mentioned, 20,853. What's important to note here is that when this was built and when they added on, they had in excess of 60,000 square feet of buildable upland, and they had in excess of 150 feet of frontage. At that time, the zoning bylaw only required 40,000 square feet to have 2 dwelling units on a property. The zoning changed, and obviously, if the Studley family or I was aware that all of a sudden that this zoning change was coming, we would have addressed it at the time. It's something that, in hindsight, it's unfortunate, but when the structure was built and connected to the septic system, it was adequate to have 2 dwellings on the property. Now, the flood zone in 2014, the flood zone changed, and if you look at the site plan that I provided you, the only amount of buildable upland on this property goes around here like that. Everything else is within the 100-year flood zone in this area. So I'm showing you that because I really believe that the hardship is owing to the fact that the 2-bedroom structure could have been constructed by right at the time in accordance with the zoning bylaw and with the prior elevation of the flood zones. And I believe this is directly related to the topography. Was the topography different? The flood zone wouldn't have come in here. The hardship is owing to the fact that the applicant's father constructed a 2-bedroom dwelling when he was issued a permit for a storage building with a bathroom in the early 1990s. What was awkward is he was issued a permit to connect to the septic system, and had he come before the Board of Health to expand the leaching facility a little bit, we wouldn't even be here. So the reason for the variance is that, one, the flood zone changed in 2014, reducing the amount of buildable upland below 40,000 square feet. And then two, the zoning bylaw requiring 80,000 square feet of buildable upland for a second dwelling unit was adopted in 2005. And this structure was built in '92, and I expect sometime, not long after that, the bedrooms were created. So I'm not sure if my stating of the hardship, it's owing to the soil conditions, shape, and topography, are as illustrative as they should be, but I think it's certainly a reasonable request of the board to grant a variance to allow Betsy and her husband to rebuild the house that was destroyed by fire. I don't know, I wish Tom Evers was here. I don't know if there's a statute of limitations for something like this, but I applied for the variance because that's what he advised me to do. But I do know it's been almost 20 years since it's probably been a dwelling. And unfortunately, the fire is what brought us to this point. I don't know if it was there, we wouldn't be asking to rebuild it.
At first, I was thinking that it was completely irrelevant whether there was any structure at all where you planned to put this second 2-bedroom dwelling. Then when I listened to you more carefully, I realized that it's necessary for the owner to honor that there was a structure in existence, having created a frontier to freeze and crystallize the grandfathering on the dimensions. So now that but for the fire, you would have had a footprint that would have had to have been honored in spite of the fact that there were two changes, one in the way that we deal with buildable upland, and the second being the 40,000 per building dwelling.
That, you bring up a good point, and I've been before the
So
board
that-
with
so
a similar.
that's your argument. I think that you do need a variance for something that you want to do. I suppose that the Studleys were paying taxes, and the Board of Assessors, as sure as the sun rises in the morning, were billing on two dwellings.
Oh, and that's something I should have brought to your
You know,
attention.
I bet they were.
For 20-some-odd years, they've been paying for two dwelling units.
So, that's
May I ask some
not, the town wasn't stopped by that, but still, it showed that everyone was looking at it in that kind of respect. Yes, Peter?
Can I ask
Yes,
questions?
please.
Just so I understand it. Historically speaking, the storage building was built ostensibly as a storage building in the past. At that time, this so-called boathouse or beach house was existent.
Yes, it
also,
was.
and it was in use. And then the storage building morphed into a dwelling, a two-family dwelling,
Yes.
and
it-
subsequently burned.
Yes.
And what's triggering the 4,000 is the combined square feet of both the beach house and the burned dwelling.
That's correct.
Okay. So all I'm really interested in personally is, could you review the proposed septic plans for both the houses? Can you tell me what's going to be done?
Yes. So presently, there is an existing septic tank and a pump chamber that used to connect up to a leaching facility in this area.
Okay.
There is a leach pit in this area.
I see temporary low.
And there was also a septic tank from the house that burned down
Yep.
here that connected to that leaching pit,
Okay.
which was all approved.
Okay.
Now what we are proposing to do is utilize the existing septic tank and pump chamber, pump it up to a distribution box, which will then go into a septic system that the Board of Health granted variances for.
All right.
And the two-bedroom dwelling is also going into a two-compartment septic tank, which connects to that D-box. So we've designed a septic system that's suitable for 4 bedrooms, and we demonstrated a hardship to the Board of Health, and they granted the necessary variances because we couldn't locate this 100 feet away from the resource areas because there is no land on the property 100 feet away.
Okay, so it's been approved, what you
Yes.
just told me. Okay.
And I provided you with the approval from the Board of Health.
All right. That's all, question I had.
Mr. Taub?
What was the square footage of the shed, and how does that compare to the square footage of the proposed two-bedroom house?
We are going from 864 square feet
It's on the table
No,
there.
excuse me, 878 square feet to 1,707.
So more than doubling.
Yes.
And
Well, let me,
But,
that
but if
shows
I may,
you were over 4,000 already.
For the two
You were over
dwellings.
4,000 anyway.
We were over
You
4,000.
were over
and we're-
4,000 to begin with.
And we're continuing to be over 4,000.
Was there any, this didn't have to go through architectural review, did
No,
it?
it did not.
You know,
I mean, there's a lot of things happening.
right.
Yeah.
And the only thing that I feel a little wootsy about, coin a legal phrase, is this doubling of the size of the, I mean, I don't care that it was a dwelling and that it was inside, and blah, 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 blah. That's, the doubling of it, that's not, it's really not in our purview in some ways. We always say in honor to Mr. Soderum that people are entitled to use their properties, and we encourage, in a way, the use of their properties. So I'm just saying that there's something about it that doesn't feel good.
I understand that there's a lot of things that have happened from 1992 to now. But I'm looking at it this way, that there was, in the relatively near past, recent past, a two-bedroom structure there that was on 878 square feet. And now it is being doubled, and that sounds like the arithmetic to that is kind of spooky and scary, but on the other hand, for 1,707 square feet to support two bedrooms isn't terribly violative when you consider the history of the lot in that portion of the lot, when you consider the four bedrooms that were there before the fire, and you consider the relatively small lots that creep down to the water in that area. That's what I'm thinking, you know, so.
If I may,
Even though there are a lot of things happening, and I'm satisfied that this probably is hardship. I think we can make a finding of hardship. The question is really on special permit, those kind of factors, is this the type of thing that the town really ought to foster, or if not foster, ought to allow to happen here? That's the thing the board has to decide.
and if I may, Mr. Chairman, as I mentioned earlier, we're all aware of sea level rise, and the Studley family is acutely aware of it. Their house on the water there will come a time when that's just going to be a boathouse. And the modest increase, what I'd like to term as a modest increase in the coverage, a big part of it is a one-car garage. They have the ability to get a car in out of the weather.
You still have the pier going off of that deck down there?
Excuse me?
Is there still a pier going off the deck?
Oh, yes, there's a licensed pier.
Okay.
When the day comes, will they be able to move that house back or somewhere if finances permit?
Well, we'll be back for a modification of a variance if that day ever comes.
And I didn't notice it, but the height is significantly changed from the shed, but you say it's not visible from the water.
It is not visible. When you go out of Meeting House Pond and you go around the river and look back, it's not visible from anywhere.
Okay.
And one of the things that the Conservation Commission took into consideration is the Studley family has put 4.7 acres of their property down here on the bend in conservation restriction. They've donated a significant amount of land to the conservation OCT.
Is that on the
It
The
doesn't appear
easterly-
on this.
Easterly boundary of this?
I can show you where it is on the assessor's map. So these two lots and a portion of this lot have been placed in conservation restriction that were all owned by the Studleys. Well, it is still owned by the Studleys, but a conservation restriction has been placed on it. And this is where this is, and when you look across the marsh here, I don't believe it'll be visible. There are, as our plan shows, there are a significant amount of trees in this area, and I know it's not visible from that side.
Okay. Any, Mr. Mulligan, you have any questions?
Just in the calculation of the 4,573 square feet, does that include the screen porch and the
Yes, it does.
decks? Or
It includes all the roofed area. Not the decks.
The
Decks
decks.
don't count, but the screen porch, and there is a covered connection between the screen porch to the dwelling on the water. It does take that into account.
Hardly a structure, that screen porch.
Believe it or not, that's where the family spends almost all their
I'm
time
sure.
in the summer.
Well,
It's
we have a
on-
greenhead problem.
The screen porch that's on the water.
Ms. McCartney, do you have any questions?
Well, I guess my main concern is going over the 15% land coverage, and they're already over that. And then the other concern, I'm not bothered by the second dwelling, but the fact that they're expanding the second dwelling, which adds to the further increase on the overage, bothers me. And by the same token, if they're gonna lose this house, I'm wavering.
If you look at the plans, we are going over, but please keep in mind that this is a large screen porch. It's not habitable space. It has screens around it. There's a covered connection here. There's a covered deck there. There is an awful lot of uninhabitable space that brings us from 18% to 21%. And the number is so high because this is our only upland now. We lost all of that upland when the new flood zones were adopted in 2014. As you are well aware.
Oh, yeah.
Weren't we told, Mr. Chairman, once upon a time that there were only 6 properties in the entire town that would be afflicted by this upland change?
Somebody's, yeah, I think.
No, we were told
It
there
was-
were, no, we were not. We were told there were only 6 that were buildable, that hadn't been built on, that were affected by this. It did not, there are hundreds of properties around town that have lost land because of that, but they already have buildings on them. The numbers
6 that
the
had
numbers-
not been built
The
on.
numbers that had not, the 6 lots that were no longer, I think it was only like 2, there were 6 lots impacted and 2 of them could be built, but it was about lots that hadn't been built on. Because the issue was whether we were gonna create a new lot. So it was buildable lots that we had been told about.
Okay.
Do you have any questions?
No questions.
Now,
Comments?
is there anyone else wishing to speak in favor of this application? Oh, well, is there anyone present wishing to speak in opposition to this application? Members of the board, let the record reflect
Did you want to speak?
that
No, I think you did an excellent job of presenting it. Thank you for hearing our case.
Members of the board, let the record reflect that as of 10:39 this morning, the board secretary received an email from Ada George, who says that an abutter would not be able to attend this evening's meeting, but Ms. Maureen Brucey, 52 Tides End Lane, is supportive of this application.
Ms. Brucey lives right here.
To the east.
Yes, she lives she's one lot removed to the east of the property.
Any further questions of the by any members of the board? There- You have one, or you have more, I mean.
No, actually, I just
I'm
have.
not restricting you to
did.
one.
I guess I would tend to be in favor of it, knowing that they're gonna be losing space there, and I don't know if we can make it contingent upon the loss, or that it, I mean, it just seems like that has a big influence on my decision, that's precarious.
Well, all I can say, Beth, is that it floods during storm events, and they actually have mechanical equipment, including refrigerators and storage in the washer dryer in the garage. So I don't think it's necessarily fair to say that they have to do it, but I think it's a foregone conclusion that it's someday that's not going to be a habitable space. Just
Mind if I speak for a second?
Yes, sir.
I've been working on the property for 30 years for Jim. I've been under the house with snakes. It's built on pilings. It's hanging over the river. The three-car garage floods at least twice a year. Their stuff is up in the air. We call them habitable dwellings. I guess you really stress it. When you have no boathouse that has a railway still outside, it's a boathouse. We call it a dwelling, call it wrong. It's an old boathouse. It's about to be 100 years old next year. As far as the other thing goes, the screened-in porch, it's a screened-in porch. It's not habitable either. I just don't, I'm just not following this at all. The house isn't gonna last. The boathouse isn't gonna last. There isn't any place to move it. Once it fails, it fails. There's no place to go uphill. There are no uphills.
if I may, if and when they wanted to fix the boathouse, they would have to elevate it above the flood zone, which would render the use of the boathouse gone, because the flood zone elevation is 13, so they'd be putting that up on stilts 8 feet in the air, and that's just not going to happen. So I think the short time that the family has the availability and the use of it, I think it's fortunate, and I would hope that they would be able to continue that, Beth.
I wasn't looking at the application that way. I was looking at that as if there would be two-bedroom dwellings in perpetuity, because you're spending good money. Your application as a whole shows that you're spending good money to do the septic system. That's a major expense. So I wasn't thinking of it as this being a two-bedroom dwelling as a backup when the boathouse washes into the ocean. You know, I wasn't looking at it that way at all myself.
I appreciate that.
You know, it is what it is. You've got two-bedroom houses is what you want.
Just for clarification, you said they have been assessed since 1992 for two-bedroom houses?
I don't know, I know for at least 20 years, Beth. They've been assessed for 2 dwelling units. I can show you, I have a copy of the assessor's card. I can pull up for you. Just bear with me a second.
I can take your word for it.
No, we can go on and I'll come up with it.
I can go home and look it up, too.
But I'd be really impressed if he has that assessor's card in his folder.
Oh, boy.
A field card.
Ha.
Well, this way it can be in the
Let the record reflect.
Okay, this is the one that burned down?
Yes, that's correct.
Let me see.
This is one you're just pointing at, yes?
That's the one that burned down.
I have several.
I'm going to receive one as an exhibit.
This is the storage shed? Okay.
Well,
Well,
interestingly enough, Mr. Jablon, this is what I pulled from the building
Yeah, I saw that, I
department
saw
file.
that, right.
So it does,
Okay, it's a humanitarian thing, as Mr. Marnick so aptly described it. That's how I look at it.
thank you.
They're not trying to build a palace or something.
I'm going to mark it as Exhibit 1. Any further questions of the board, of the applicant? Then hearing none, I will close the hearing to the taking of evidence and ask the board for its thoughts. I've said once, I've said twice, that there are a lot of pieces in the puzzle, but I think when we approach the whole proposition in view of the history since 1992, I don't see where the 2017 bylaw, zoning bylaw, is shocked by the application, and I'm in favor of it.
I'd just like to comment on Beth's comment, and that is that, you know, when they define coverage, it picks up everything from a 9-bedroom house with 4,000, 5,000 square feet to a screened porch, which, I don't know if you're familiar with the property, you can see through it. It's just, I've been by the property on the river. It sort of sticks out, you can't miss it. And I have the same concerns you do about that kind of coverage ratio, but it's covered by, to a large extent, insignificant, that they fall in the definition of coverage. But from my mind, it isn't the same kind of coverage, and it mitigates some of the concern.
Mr. Jablon?
As I already said that, I agree with what you said earlier, that I think part of our responsibility is to address humanitarian concerns, and there is one here, and it's not outrageous. That's the way I look at it.
Very well.
And they've dotted their i's with the septic. I was concerned about that, but that was well addressed.
Very well. Ms. McCartney?
Okay.
Ms. Geeson, do you have any comments?
No, not this time.
Mr. Top?
I'm content, sir.
Very well, then we'll entertain a motion to grant a variance and grant the special permit as prayed in the application. Is there such a motion?
So moved.
And a second?
A second.
Thank you, Mr. Mulligan. Any discussion on the motion? Then all those in favor
Aye.
and opposed? The motion carries unanimously. I'll write the decision.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, David. Thank you.
I have no further business to come before the meeting. Is there any new business or anything that ought to be discussed in public? We welcome
Yes.
the new member to our midst.
Thank you. I got changes to open meeting law. Did everybody
Saw that.
know about
Yes.
changes
Saw
to
that.
open meeting
I
law?
didn't print it, but yes, I received.
Kelly Darling?
Yeah.
Yes.
Good, because I didn't get it. But I'm glad to know that you all got it, so that's good. That's taken care of, yes.
That's a gentle suggestion that we should open that email from Ms. Darling
Yes,
and
please.
read the contents. This is a one-page summary. Anyway,
It's not that big.
No, it's not bad.
thank you, members of the board. If there's no further
Thank you.
business, I'll entertain a motion. Yes,
I'd like
Ms.